My wife had just given me a custom fishing rod for my retirement, and when I held it for the first time, something inside me whispered, this wasn't a gift, it was a weapon. The carbon fiber felt wrong in my grip, too light, too cold, and the metal reel housing had this odd hum when I touched it, like it was alive with something that shouldn't be there. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me back up to 3 nights before, when my late brother Tommy came to me in a dream. Now, I'm not a superstitious man. I spent 34 years with the FBI, most of it in forensic analysis. I deal in evidence, facts, physical proof. I don't believe in ghosts or premonitions or any of that nonsense. But Tommy's visit felt different. It felt real in a way dreams never do. He was standing at the end of a dock, same flannel shirt he died in 5 years ago during that freak fishing accident in Lake Superior. The doctors said his heart just gave out. He was only 59. I was there when they pulled him from the water, his fishing rod still in his hand. In the dream, Tommy looked right at me with those same blue eyes we both got from our father. "Bobby," he said, using the nickname only he was allowed to use, "don't go on that trip. The rod's not right. Check the rod." Then he pointed at something in the water, and when I looked down, I saw my own face reflected back, but older, grayer, dead. I woke up sweating through my sheets. My wife Linda was already up. She's always been an early riser. I could hear her downstairs making coffee, humming some song from the 70s. We'd been married 38 years. I thought I knew her better than I knew myself. It was the morning of my retirement party. After 3.5 decades of crime scenes and evidence analysis and catching the worst kinds of people, I was finally done. 62 years old, full pension, a small cabin up in Minnesota waiting for me. Linda had been planning this for months. She'd organized everything: the party at our local VFW hall, the guest list, the catering. She'd even commissioned a custom fishing rod from some artisan in Montana, a surprise retirement gift she'd been secretive about for weeks. "It's going to be perfect for your trip to Boundary Waters," she'd said when she showed it to me that morning, her eyes bright with something I'd mistaken for excitement. I had it specially made, top of the line. The guide at the fly shop said, "It's the best money can buy." The rod was beautiful, I'll give her that. Dark blue carbon fiber with silver accents, a precision reel that probably cost more than my first car. My name was even engraved on a small brass plate near the handle. Robert Matthews, fair winds and tight lines. "Linda, this is too much," I'd said, and I meant it. The thing must have cost maybe $4,000. We weren't poor, but we weren't rich either. FBI pay is decent, not extravagant. "You deserve it," she'd said, kissing my cheek. "You've worked so hard. Now you get to enjoy yourself." But when I touched it, really touched it for the first time, I felt that hum, and I remembered Tommy's face in the dream. Check the rod. The party that night was everything Linda promised. 200 people showed up, colleagues from the bureau, neighbors, friends from church, even our son Marcus, who flew in from Seattle with his wife and my 2 granddaughters. The girls are 7 and 9, and they climbed all over me the moment they arrived, showing me drawings they'd made for Grandpa's special day. Linda worked the room like a politician's wife. She'd always been good at that. Social and charming, the perfect bureau spouse who hosted dinner parties and smiled through my long absences and never complained about the late nights or the cases I couldn't talk about. She wore a red dress I'd never seen before, something younger than her 60 years, and I noticed she'd lost weight. A lot of weight. "You look great, honey," I told her during a quiet moment. "Oh, I've been working with a trainer," she said. "Jason. He's wonderful. Really pushed me these past 6 months." 6 months. That's when she'd suggested I take this fishing trip to Boundary Waters, a whole week alone to decompress and transition into retirement. She'd insisted on it, actually. Said I needed time to myself, that I'd earned it. I should have seen it then. But I was too busy accepting congratulations and cutting cake and showing off the fancy rod to anyone who'd look. My old partner Mike spent 20 minutes examining it. "This is serious equipment," he said. "She must really love you, Bob." 38 years, I said. "We've had our rough patches, but we always work through them." "That's what it's about," Mike agreed. "Working through it." That night, after everyone left and Linda had gone to bed, I sat in my workshop in the garage. I couldn't sleep. Tommy's warning kept circling in my head like a vulture. I'd brought the fishing rod down with me, telling myself I just wanted to clean it, inspect it properly, get familiar with its weight and balance before the trip. But really, I wanted to prove the dream wrong. I wanted to prove I was being paranoid. 34 years of seeing the worst of humanity had made me suspicious of everything, even my own wife's generosity. I started with a visual inspection under my workbench light. The rod looked perfect. Professional craftsmanship. The wrapping on the guides was flawless. The reel seat was solid. Nothing obviously wrong, but that hum was still there when I touched the metal parts. Then I noticed something. The reel housing was slightly heavier than it should be. Not much, maybe an ounce or two, but I'd handled enough fishing gear in my life to know when something was off. I unscrewed the side plate. What I found inside made my blood turn to ice. Someone had installed a small lithium battery pack and a modified capacitor, cleverly hidden in the hollow space of the reel housing. The wiring ran through the rod blank itself, invisible unless you knew exactly where to look. The whole rod was electrified not constantly, but triggered by a small button on the underside of the handle, disguised as a decorative element. I sat there for a long time, staring at it. I'd seen electrical murder attempts before, back in my bureau days. Usually sloppy, obvious. This was sophisticated, professional. The voltage was calibrated perfectly enough to stop a human heart, not enough to leave obvious burns. In water, it would look like a heart attack. Just like Tommy, my hands started shaking, not from fear. From rage, I spent the next 2 hours carefully documenting everything with my phone camera. I took measurements. I traced the wiring. I tested the voltage with my multimeter, 220 volts DC, more than enough to kill. Then I reassembled everything exactly as I'd found it. When I finally went upstairs, it was 3 a.m. Linda was asleep, or pretending to be. I stood in the doorway of our bedroom, looking at her in the dim light from the hallway. This woman I'd spent 38 years with, who'd raised our son with me, who'd held my hand at Tommy's funeral, who'd sat through countless bureau dinners and smiled at my terrible jokes and told me she loved me every single day. She'd tried to kill me. The question was, why? And who'd helped her? Because Linda didn't know anything about electrical systems or capacitors. She barely knew how to reset the Wi-Fi router. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in my home office with the door locked, pulling up our financial records, our life insurance policies, our bank statements. It's amazing what you can find when you actually look. The life insurance was the first red flag. Linda had increased my policy 6 months ago, same time she started with the trainer, from $200,000 to $2 million. She'd forged my signature. I recognized it immediately. She'd practiced my handwriting for years when she'd signed my name on Christmas cards. $2 million. Enough to set someone up very comfortably for life. I dug deeper. Our joint credit card showed regular charges to something called Elite Fitness Solutions, Linda's gym, presumably. But the amounts were odd. $850 one week, $1,200 the next. These weren't gym memberships. Gym memberships are monthly, predictable. I hacked into her email. I'm not proud of it, but I'd kept all my forensic digital tools from the bureau, including some that technically weren't retired with me. Her password was easy, her mother's maiden name plus our anniversary year. What I found in her deleted folder made me want to vomit. Months of emails to someone named Jason Cordero. Not just trainer-client messages. Love letters. Explicit photos. Plans for a future together. Once this is done, one email read, "We'll have everything we need. $2 million is enough to disappear to Costa Rica. He'll never know. No one will know." Another email from 3 weeks ago. "Cal says the device is ready. He's tested it 3 times. It's foolproof. Heart attack in water. Untraceable. Just make sure he takes the rod. Cal." I searched for that name in her emails. Calvin Pritchard, an electrician Linda had hired last spring to rewire our kitchen. They'd struck up a friendship, apparently. Or more than a friendship. The emails between Linda and Cal were fewer, but they were damning discussions of voltage, conductivity, making it look natural. So there were three of them: Linda, Jason the trainer, and Cal the electrician. A middle-aged woman tired of her FBI husband, a younger fitness instructor looking for a payday, and a skilled tradesman willing to build a murder weapon for a cut of the insurance money. I sat there watching the sun come up through my office window, thinking about Tommy, about how he'd drowned with a fishing rod in his hand, about how the autopsy said heart attack, nothing suspicious, about how Linda had been there that weekend too, had even suggested the trip. Oh God, Tommy. Had she done this before? Was I her second attempt? I pulled up Tommy's autopsy report. I still had access to some bureau databases. Technically shouldn't, but old habits, and read it again with new eyes. Cardiac arrhythmia, possibly induced by stress and cold water. No burns noted, but they wouldn't have looked for electrical injury if they had no reason to suspect it. No one had examined his fishing gear. It had been donated after his death, Linda's suggestion. She'd killed my brother, practiced on him, and now it was my turn. I should have called the police right then, should have turned over everything I'd found, but I was angry. 34 years of training people to collect evidence, to build airtight cases, to make sure the guilty couldn't slip through procedural cracks, it all kicked in. I wanted them caught red-handed. All three of them. I spent the next 2 days playing the role of excited retiree. I told Linda I couldn't wait for the fishing trip. I practiced casting with the rod in our backyard, making sure she saw me. "This thing's incredible," I said. "Best rod I've ever used." She smiled and kissed my cheek. "I'm so glad you like it. I can't wait to try it out on real fish." "Just be careful out there," she said. "Boundary waters can be dangerous if you're not paying attention." I bet it could. I used my old bureau contacts to run background checks on Jason Cordero and Calvin Pritchard. Jason was exactly what I expected, 34 years old, fitness instructor, 3 previous relationships with older women, all of whom had mysteriously come into money. He'd never been charged with anything, but the pattern was clear. He was a professional con artist who specialized in lonely, middle-aged wives. Cal was more interesting. 52, divorced, electrician's license, 1 previous arrest for insurance fraud 8 years ago, charges dropped. He'd probably done this before too. I set my trap carefully. I told Linda I wanted to leave a day early for the fishing trip, get a head start. She loved that idea. "You deserve the extra time," she said. "I'll hold down the fort here. Why don't you invite Jason over?" I suggested casually. "You could get in a workout while I'm gone. I know you've been enjoying your training sessions." "Oh, I don't want to bother him," she said, too quickly. "No bother. I insist. In fact, why don't both of you come up for the last day? There's a lodge near the access point. You could surprise me. We could all have dinner together. I'd love to meet this miracle worker who got you in such great shape." I saw the calculation in her eyes. She was thinking about the timeline, about me being alone in the woods for 6 days first, about the accident happening before they showed up. "That's sweet," she said. "Let me check with Jason." I contacted Mike, my old partner, told him I needed a favor, off the books. He didn't ask questions. That's what 30 years of partnership earns you. I gave him copies of everything I'd found and a burner phone number to reach me. "If you don't hear from me in 1 week," I said, "go to the Minneapolis field office with this." "Bob, what the hell is going on?" "Insurance. Just insurance." The night before I left, Linda made my favorite dinner. Pot roast with carrots and potatoes, the way her mother taught her. We ate in comfortable silence, like we'd done thousands of times before. She poured wine, expensive stuff, special occasion. I pretended to drink mine but dumped it in the sink when she wasn't looking. I wasn't taking any chances. "I'm going to miss you," she said, reaching across the table to take my hand. I looked at her face, trying to see when she'd become a stranger. When had she stopped being the woman I married and turned into this? Or had she always been this, and I'd just been too busy chasing other people's monsters to notice the one sleeping beside me? "I'll miss you too," I said, and meant it. I would miss who I thought she was. That night, I loaded my truck with camping gear and the fishing rod. Linda stood in the driveway in her bathrobe, waving. "Catch a big one for me," she called. "I will," I promised. The drive to Boundary Waters canoe area took 8 hours. I stopped twice for gas and coffee, checking my rearview mirror each time, making sure I wasn't being followed. Paranoia is hard to shake after 3 decades in law enforcement. I didn't go to Boundary Waters. Instead, I drove to a small private lake about 40 miles south, a place an old bureau friend owned. He owed me a favor from a case back in '09. I called him from the road. I need to borrow your lake house for a week, and I need you to not ask questions. Done, he said. Keys are under the back mat. The lake house was perfect, isolated, no neighbors for miles, surrounded by woods. I had a clear view of the access road from the front porch. I set up security cameras I'd borrowed from Mike, positioned them to cover all approaches. Then I waited. I called Linda that first night, told her I'd arrived safely, that the fishing was great. Caught a northern pike already. Must have been 20 inches. That's wonderful, honey. I'm so glad you're enjoying yourself. How's everything at home? Quiet without you. I might call Jason, see if he wants to do that training session after all. You should. You've been working so hard. On day 3, Mike called the burner. Your wife just bought 2 plane tickets to Duluth. Her and someone named Jason Cordero. Arriving day 6, returning day 7. Perfect. Can you do me one more favor? Name it. Call Calvin Pritchard. Tell him you're a friend of Linda's, that there's been a change of plans. Give him this address. I read off the lake house location. Tell him he needs to check the device. Make sure it's working properly. Tell him Linda's worried it might not trigger in cold water. Bob. Mike, please. Trust me. I've trusted you for 30 years. Not stopping now. Cal showed up on day 4, driving a beat-up electrician's van. I watched him from inside the house as he parked and walked toward the dock, carrying a small toolbox. He was looking for me, probably planning to pretend he was lost if I confronted him. I let him get all the way to the dock before I stepped out of the house. Can I help you? He jumped, nearly dropped his toolbox. Oh, hey, I think I'm lost. Looking for the Henderson cabin? This is the Henderson cabin. Oh. He looked confused, then recovered. Actually, I'm looking for Robert Matthews. I'm supposed to check on some equipment for him. I'm Robert Matthews. Now he looked really confused. The plan was falling apart. I could see him calculating, trying to figure out what to do. Linda sent you, didn't she? I said. To check the fishing rod. His face went white. I don't know what you're talking about. Sure you do, Cal. The electrified rod you built. The one that's supposed to stop my heart and make it look like an accident. Just like you did with my brother Tommy, 5 years ago. He bolted. Tried to, anyway. But I'd been running down suspects half my age for 34 years. Cal was 52 and out of shape. I had him on the ground in about 10 seconds, his arm twisted behind his back. FBI, I said, even though technically I was retired. Old habits. You're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder. I called Mike. Got one. Come get him. Mike arrived with 2 agents from the Minneapolis field office. Turns out, he'd already briefed them, shown them my evidence. They'd been waiting for my call. Cal sang like a canary once he was in custody, gave up Linda and Jason, detailed the whole plan, even confessed to Tommy's murder. She approached me 2 years ago, he said in his statement. After she'd seen what I did with the rod for her brother-in-law, she wanted another one for her husband. Said she'd split the insurance money with me and her boyfriend. $2 million. 3 ways. I know it was wrong. I know. But that's life-changing money. Linda and Jason were arrested at the Duluth airport when they landed. Linda had the forged beneficiary documents in her purse, already signed, ready to file the claim. Jason had a one-way ticket to Costa Rica in his backpack, dated for 3 days later. The trial took 8 months. I sat through every day of it, watching Linda try to explain it away. She claimed I'd abused her mentally, emotionally, financially, that I'd driven her to desperation. Her lawyer played the long-suffering wife angle hard, but the evidence was overwhelming. The emails, the insurance fraud, Cal's testimony, Tommy's exhumed body, which showed trace evidence of electrical burns the first autopsy had missed. The jury took 4 hours to convict all 3 of them. Linda got life without parole. Jason got 25 years. Cal got 30. Our son Marcus hasn't spoken to me since the trial. He thinks I set his mother up, that I entrapped her somehow. Maybe I did. Maybe I should have just called the police that first night and let them handle it. But I'd spent 34 years learning that the system has cracks, that smart criminals slip through on technicalities. I wasn't going to let the woman who murdered my brother slip through. I'm 63 now. I live in a small apartment in Street Paul, closer to the bureau office where I consult on cases. Sometimes they still need my expertise. I sold the house. Couldn't stand being there. The cabin in Minnesota went on the market too. I don't fish anymore. Some nights, I still dream about Tommy. He doesn't speak in these dreams. He just nods, like he's satisfied, like he knows I got justice for both of us. I kept the fishing rod. It's in a storage unit somewhere, in an evidence box, tagged and sealed. Sometimes I think about destroying it, crushing it to pieces. But it's a reminder that the people we trust the most can be the most dangerous. That evil doesn't always look like the suspects I used to chase. Sometimes it sleeps next to you for 38 years. Sometimes it kisses you goodnight and plans your murder in the morning. The girls, my granddaughters, send me cards sometimes. Marcus doesn't know. They draw pictures of Grandpa and write "We love you" in crayon. I keep them in a drawer next to my bed. They're 9 and 11 now. Growing up without really knowing me, knowing their grandmother is in prison for trying to kill their grandfather. I wonder what Marcus tells them. I wonder if he'll ever believe the truth. Last week, I went to Tommy's grave. First time since the trial. I brought flowers, stupid. He hated flowers, and sat on the grass next to his headstone. "I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner," I said out loud, not caring if anyone heard. "I'm sorry she got away with it for so long." The wind picked up, rustling through the trees around the cemetery, and for just a moment, I swear I heard his laugh. That big, booming laugh he'd have whenever I did something stupid. Yeah, I said. "I know. I finally got there. I visit him every month now. Sometimes I bring coffee. He always loved terrible gas station coffee, and sit there for hours, just talking, about cases, about life, about the mess everything became. He doesn't answer, of course. Dead men don't talk, but sometimes, late at night when I'm drifting off to sleep, I still feel him there. My brother, my protector, the ghost who saved my life with a warning I almost ignored. "Check the rod," he'd said. I checked the rod, and it checked out to be exactly what he'd warned me about: a beautiful gift wrapped around a death sentence. They say you never really know someone. After 38 years of marriage, I thought I knew Linda inside and out. Every quirk, every habit, every dream. Turns out I didn't know her at all. The woman I loved died long before Linda ever went to prison. Maybe she never existed. Maybe I married a stranger and just never looked close enough to see it. The Bureau offered me a consulting position after the trial. Part-time, remote work, analyzing evidence for cold cases. I said yes. It gives me something to do, keeps my mind sharp, keeps me from thinking too much about everything I lost. But the real reason I took it is simple. I'm good at finding monsters. I've been hunting them my whole life. The cases keep coming: unsolved murders, missing persons, evidence that doesn't quite add up. And I solve them one by one, bringing closure to families who thought they'd never get answers. Because I know what it's like to need answers, to need justice, to need someone to believe you when you say something's wrong. Tommy tried to tell people something was wrong that day on Lake Superior. He told Linda he felt strange, dizzy. She said it was just the cold. She was the last person to see him alive. She was the one who found him floating face down, his fishing rod still clutched in his hand. She was the one who killed him, and she almost got away with it twice. That's what keeps me up at night. Not the fact that she tried to kill me. I've faced down serial killers and terrorists and mob enforcers. Death threats come with the job. But the fact that I shared a bed with a murderer for 5 years after Tommy died and never suspected a thing, that I kissed her goodnight and told her I loved her while she was planning my funeral. How does someone do that? How does someone look you in the eye day after day, year after year, and hide something that dark? I asked her once. during a prison visit I probably shouldn't have made. She wouldn't see me at first, but I pulled strings, used my old bureau credentials to get approved. We sat across from each other in that awful visiting room with its fluorescent lights and cheap plastic chairs, and I asked her straight out, "How long were you planning to kill me?" She didn't answer for a long time, just stared at me with those brown eyes I used to find beautiful. Then she said, "Since the day I realized you loved the job more than you loved me." That's not true, isn't it? 34 years, Bob. 34 years of coming second to the bureau, second to cases, second to victims I'd never meet, and monsters you'd never stop chasing. When was the last time you remembered our anniversary without me reminding you? When was the last time you were home for a full week? When did you ever choose me? So you killed Tommy to practice? Tommy was convenient. He trusted me. He was lonely after his divorce. And yes, I wanted to make sure it would work. That, I could live with it. Turns out I could. And Jason? What was he? Everything you weren't. Present. Attentive. Young enough to still have dreams. Dreams funded by my life insurance. She smiled then, this small, sad smile. We all have our retirement plans, Bob. I left after that. Haven't been back. Don't plan to. But I think about that conversation a lot, about how someone can justify murder in their own mind. How betrayal and resentment can fester for decades until it turns into something monstrous. How easy it is to become the villain in someone else's story. Was I a bad husband? Probably. I worked too much, missed too many dinners, prioritized the job over everything else. But did that justify murder? Did my absence earn me a death sentence? I don't know. Some days I think I should have seen it coming. Other days I think there's nothing I could have done. Linda made her choices, just like Tommy made his choice to trust her. Just like I made mine to marry her in the first place. All those years ago, when I proposed, she said yes without hesitation. We were 24, young and stupid, and convinced we'd be happy forever. She wore a white dress and promised to love me in sickness and health, for richer or poorer, till death do us part. I guess she decided 38 years was long enough. The fishing rod sits in that storage unit, gathering dust. Sometimes I think about taking it out, examining it one more time, trying to understand the mind of someone who could plan something so elaborate, so cold, so calculated. But I already know what I'd find. Just wires and batteries and carefully calibrated voltage. The mechanics of murder, the physics of betrayal. Tommy knew, somehow, from whatever comes after death. He knew, and he tried to warn me. And I almost didn't listen. I almost ignored it. Chalked it up to stress and bad dreams and paranoia. Almost. But I didn't. I checked the rod, and that's what saved my life. So now, when people ask me if I believe in ghosts, in premonitions, in messages from beyond, I tell them this. I believe in paying attention. I believe in trusting your instincts. I believe that sometimes the people who love us most, even after death, will find a way to protect us from the people who want to hurt us. And I believe in checking the rod. Always check the rod.